is Tales of Tribulations, The Delusion Retrospective. All right, please help me welcome to the stage. You heard him on KPCC, The Frame, master host, Mr. John Horn.
Thank you all for coming out. My name is, in fact, John Horn. We have some rotating seats at the end, so don't worry that they're empty. They will be filled at some point. Let's get going and bring out our first panel creator, John Braver. Production designer, Kevin Williams. Tech and lighting, Ian Momi. And assistant director, creative supervisor, Victor Matthew. As we're getting settled, by show of hands, how many people have been to a Delusion panel? Oh my God. How many people have never been to one? Okay, you will by the time this evening, this morning's over, because you're going to see a lot of flips. Let's start with a video. You want to do that? You want to start with a little snapshot, and then we'll talk about year one?
Yes, and also there's a special picture we need to show for these introductions for the boys. So yeah, here we go. Ian Momi, Kevin Williams, at their finest. Take pictures. You guys want pictures? Are you good? You want to combine?
It's just a Friday night for us.
Yeah. Here's good old Victor and that other guy with his hand down his pants. Okay. Moving on.
Okay, let's talk about year one. Before the first show, titled Delusion, got going, where were you professionally and what inspired you to start Delusion?
I was a lowly stuntman, for falling off buildings and crashing cars and all that kind of crazy stuff. And I was a big Halloween fan from Chicago and just loved the whole atmosphere of Halloween. And so I decided to, and I was a big RPG fan, gaming fan, and decided to create something in real life that would kind of mimic RPGs. So that was in 1996 and created it back in Chicago then. And I can go into the entire history. This is a retrospective, but basically that love carried over all the way through working in film and television. This was always a passion project, and then in 2011, just went for it and did it, as I will show you in this next video.
What was missing? What was the void that you were trying to fill? What was missing from the whole idea of experiencing something that as scary as Delusion and personal, up front and close?
What was the, wow. Well, there was, I think there was something, and I'll take the question a different way, because there's something missing in my own personal life, which was sort of being a master of my own destiny, I guess you can say, as a stunt person and working in film. I was sort of, go here and do this, go here and do this, and I had a lot of stories to tell. And so this was my way to sort of capture my own path.
So the very first conversations that you guys had, Kevin, Ian, and Victor with John, what were the conversations about? What was important to him in terms of the aesthetic and the idea behind each Delusion? Because I know you guys have worked on multiple Delusions. Start with your longest collaborator and about those initial conversations.
I was fresh out of college when John came up to me, or when I found John actually, searching for a job at the time, and I was a huge fan of horror, still am. And so John was looking for some support so I could help him out, organize the show and run the show, the logistics of it, especially, kind of the timing of the show, because timing is huge. So the first year was, it was a very bare bones minimum crew. It was, we had one production designer, we had John, myself, and I think that, and Kat. I think that was about it. It was insane. So John and I built a lot of, the sets ourselves as well. It was, crazy. But yeah, I was just there to support John and make sure that visually, because he's very specific about what he wants, that his visuals and what he had in mind would come to life. Yeah.
And what did you learn from that first year about the potential and how far you had to go?
The potential of where this can go?
Yeah.
There was a specific moment in year one that is on this video where this one character is on these steps and there's an interaction where she kind of leaps up into the rafters, and that's when I think we captured this the market here, and that was the moment, and it just took off from there, and that's when actually Neil got involved. We'll talk about that later.
I want to ask you a little bit about tech, lighting design, and production design. Was there an aesthetic that you tried to have consistent from year to year? And if so, how would you describe the aesthetic that you were pursuing?
I think thematically there's always been a carry-through, and it comes from John's writing. So it's very easy to derive that tone, and it's specifically what our brand is, I think. And I think that has remained relatively consistent. I didn't even join the company until 2014. So the first couple of years, I really had no recollection of because I wasn't there.
We had no idea what we were doing until he showed up.
That's not true. Not true. I think it's for you as well. Because the sound and the lighting really help flesh it out. They flesh it out. So you speak a little bit of that.
Yeah, well, when I first came on in 2012, which was already, by the time I came on, the show already was there. So 2013 is when I really got more involved with it. But there is definitely this aesthetic that Delusion has. It's kind of, dark when necessary, lit when necessary, and always creepy.
But the way that John writes, not just dialogue, but the scene descriptions, they're enough to paint the picture in your head, so you know what the roadmap is. So I credit a lot of it to John himself and his writing technique.
It's very detailed. Like when we get the script, Kevin and I, we sit down and we mark it up, and it looks like a bag of Skittles fell on the side of our notebook because we use all these different colored flags. So all of a sudden I'm like, we're texting each other like pictures of our notebooks, and it's just,
No, mine has more.
No, I have more.
Let's go to the next video clip, and then we'll talk about it, okay?
So real quick, and a big part of this entire project and how this thing actually came to be is Jackie Credderfield, who's one of our producers. She's right here right now. You're okay. I don't have much footage from back then, so bear with me.
I want to introduce you to Hollywood stuntman John Graber. You might know him from Transformers and Iron Man. You could call him the sick mind behind the creation.
Tired of talking about it. Just got to do it. I got all my friends together in the stunt world and once we casted actors, found this crazy mansion. I said, all the pieces came together for this year, and I said, it needs to happen.
You shouldn't come here. You make it come. Take it against the wall. It's only taking place. Shut your mouth! We're trapped. Do as you say. Sit down.
When I'm done with you, I'll wear this hair myself.
We all fall down. No, Chris. No. Take it! 151. Start.
Okay.
So there's three things I want to call out. First of all, you probably saw the news station misspelled Halloween. I know it's a tough word. Halloween. Second, who was doing your hair back then? Because they were crushing it. That was really nice. Is that actually your hair?
That was every year. No, every year. No.
Okay.
No, every year an actor gets sick and I got to jump in. They happen to come that one night, and I am a horrible actor.
Okay. Third, but the important question is venue, about the property that you took over for this first year, and why it was so driven, and why it continues to be so driven by the venue, and how you cast the house. We'll talk about the actors you cast, but how you cast the location and why that is so important to your process.
Yeah, in the early days, we were looking for very dilapidated places that didn't care that we would break through their walls and anchor to their floors and,
crack houses, basically.
Crack houses. Yes, in many ways. Yeah. Let me clear all those people out. Or we use them in the show, it's fine. But when I walk around, basically, I heard about West Adams District, and I'd walk around and I'd see this one place. It's like, okay, that's perfect. And I'd befriend the owner, and then it was, once it starts with the venue, and then I always say I have this book of ideas, and I sort of look through the book of ideas and I'm like, okay, this will work for that space. So definitely the venue is a character, and the venue is also the bane of my existence.
And what are the conversations you have with the people renting these venues about what you're going to do and how you're going to come in and what's going to happen?
I'm like, you should go away for a couple months. Just go, I'll get you a hotel room. Well, a check, and as much charm as I could possibly get out of me. It's tough. I mean, people in West Adams are very eclectic people. That some of them are very into it, and a lot of them are not. So it was tough. I think in the beginning there was no interactive theater in LA at that point, and so nobody knew what we were doing, and so there was no spotlight shining on us. And now every year the spotlight's getting bigger. Now it's impossible to get these places.
Because they know what's going to come with it.
Yeah.
How many people in the audience were at that first year? Show of hands. Before we go to year two, does anybody have a question for our panel? We're going to stop at every year and have time for a couple of questions. So if anybody has a question about year one, stand up and ask it. You can't all be this shy. Somebody? Nobody? Who was there? Who was here at year one? Nobody? Just a while ago. Okay, you better have a question for year two.
There we go.
Okay, so let's skip to year two now. The blood right. Should we start with the video? Oh. Well, we'll show the video and we'll.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We're gonna be bringing up Dasha Kittredge in just a moment.
John, I'm so excited to be part of Delusion this year. I came and saw the show last year and it was awesome, and I hear this year's even more exciting.
Oh, it's crazy. More stunts, more interactivity, more scary moments. We're going to have more illusionary tactics. Your expertise in that area is much appreciated.
I'm excited to be a producer.
Thank you. What was that?
What?
You looked at the mansion. Are you cold?
I'm fine. I'm excited to be here.
What are you doing?
Okay. Can I be honest with you? When I was younger, I had some personal trauma in my life that is very similar to the mansion, so it's a little tough for me right now.
Are you come here to face your fears?
I've come here to face. Sure. Are you mocking me?
No, I'm excited.
No, when I was 6 years old, my entire family was murdered in front of me by a maniacal killer. In front of my eyes. I saw it happen.
Okay,
It's not a funny joke.
No, it's not. We can get
I'm
past it.
here to face my fears.
How about facing your fears then?
Okay.
There you go.
How do I do that?
Just go in the mansion, take a couple steps, and then come back to me. I'm here, we're all here. We all, I mean like just you and I. Nobody else. You can do it.
Just go into the mansion and I'll be fine?
Yeah, I promise, I'm right here.
Am I being punked?
It's daytime, it's safe. Just like 2 steps. 1 and 2. You're in.
Hey! I'm in. I'm okay.
That's right.
When is a haunted house not a haunted house? When you're in LA to see Halloween's most interactive horror play. The show is Delusion, the Blood Rite. But don't call it a haunted house.
This is theater. This is a moving play. It's not a haunted house.
In Delusion, guests take part in the stories.
To speak, to move the story forward, certain actions you have to do. Music, story, stunts, and immersion. That's what really sets us apart. So we take a shackle, put it through the loop, and we're good to go.
Customized rigs create supernatural tricks.
It's like walking through a horror film.
Unfortunately, it is our grandmother that holds the key to the crypt. She is a conniving and lascivious old hag, yet still quite powerful. Our grandmother holds the key. I feel weak, but I will try to keep her in a deep sleep. All of you, you must choose the strongest of mind from your group. Travel softly down the hallway, take the key from her and bring it back. You must choose who of you will go. Yes. Yes, come. Softly. I warn you.
That's a beautiful name. I'm Julia. That's my grandma. She's sleeping in the
We're all trying to tell that everyone's confused.
It sounds like they're being murdered.
It's all right. We'll get your friend. You won't get the key from my grandmother. My brother. No! No! You will ruin everything!
Hurry! This is better. Here, sit down on my bed. What's my name? Oh, Henry. I'll be your mom. And you could be my baby Victor. Here, why not? That's really soft. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? I'll just tuck you in really tight. I'll get you the toy if I want. This is one of my favorites. I'll just tuck her in right there. Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? Oh, now I'll read you a story. Let's see. I don't want to kill him. He's mine. Slice him open! I don't want to slice him open. I like him just the way he is. I'll read you that story now.
We want to see his blood.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see his blood too. Yes, I would like to see your blood. I'd like to see it spill all over my sheets and into the floorboards. But what kind of mom would I be if I killed my baby?
Let's play with his blood!
No, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Not to my baby Victor. No.
Dasha, come on up. So Dasha, you're a classically trained actor. When you get this call from John about what he's up to, what are the first questions that you have for him?
Oh, wow. That was a long time ago, that phone call. No, yes. I remember, though, actually, from that phone call, you said, so you'd be running around this house, but you're the star, and, you know, it was great. I was so confused because I couldn't understand quite exactly what I had auditioned for. But he, you know, through continuing to tell me I'd be the star and explaining it further, I kind of related it to some stuff I had done at NYU with Mary Overly, where it was like 360, and she developed the viewpoints technique. And so I kind of realized that it was, you know, an immersive 360 kind of thing like that. And reading the script helped a lot. That clarified a lot. But yeah, it was the beginning of a really awesome journey that's led to so many other wonderful things and so many beautiful friendships. So yeah, it was incredible.
John, what do you look for in a performer? What do they need to have to make it work in a delusion story?
There's a certain energy about every single delusion performer when they first walk in. They can get in the first 5 seconds or so. I'll kind of know at that point. Yes, they have to have talent for sure, but there's a certain just passion for life that they have to exude, and that plays into it because the show, they do it like 20 times a night. So many times they have to have a certain attitude, and so far so good. We've had incredible people, and they're all very tight-knit family now too. So they all get along. They all know they're all similar energy paths.
And Victor, I think that was you breaking Neil Patrick Harris's neck. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. As long as his agent didn't hold it against you. How did Neil Patrick Harris get involved, and why was that important in the history of the show?
He came to the show in 2011 with his buddies, and then saw that moment I spoke about earlier where the girl left up from the stairs. And then I was working with an actor up in the attic, and then he calls me on my cell. We got to work together. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do this. So just this period of like months of us talking about what we're going to do, and then we decided to co-produce the next year's show and just bring it out in a big way. So he, you know, with his 750 million fans on Twitter, he was able to just send one tweet out, and that sort of helped blow it up. And he and I did that show together and had a great time. And then he blew up and moved to New York, and you know, we all know what he's doing.
Yeah, I think it turned out okay for him.
Yeah. He's doing okay. Josh like a train, I was saying, he's like, he picked me up for like 15 minutes and then dropped me off. And he picks up the next person and just keeps going.
Josh, I want to ask you a little bit more about rehearsal, about what you find in story and character before the guests start coming through, and why that process is important to you.
Well, this show in particular is very hard to rehearse for without the audience. It's almost impossible. Because you have to test out moments and see how long they're going to take, and everything has to time out perfectly because we have multiple shows in the house at the same time. But for me, I mean, we were told to be completely off script for the first rehearsal, and since this was the first time I'd ever met these guys, I took that seriously, and I was completely off book for that first rehearsal. And I think that is imperative for this show, that you really need to just, your line, you can't be thinking of your lines because you're learning, you're blocking, and it's so complicated, and all the things you have to handle are so complicated that lines just can't even be a factor at that point. And we have a small amount of time in the space too, usually. So yeah, I mean, it's very hard to even use these guys as audience members in rehearsal because they're not going to do what the audience is going to do, you know? So much is dependent on that and the improv that happens off the script, that branches off of the script. You know, there are areas where that's going to be really intense and heavy, or there are areas where you think that's going to happen and it doesn't. So really it's the dress rehearsal and invited friends and guest family, you know, that time where we really, I think, when the show finally really comes together.
I think, John, this past clip that we just looked at suggests how important sound and score is in the work you do. So talk to us about the creative process and with your team about how you play score, what the cues are, and how important that is to the integrity of the performance.
Yeah, this is like walking through a horror suspense movie, and the score and the sound effects are as important as the visuals to me. It's everything. So Victor and I work closely on sound design for it, and then my composer in Denmark writes the music for it. And Victor and I, we kind of think it through in our heads. Excuse me. We think about the timing of, you know, what are the beats here? And we have actors sometimes cueing the beats when they're not in the scene. So they'll hit like the next track of something and then come into their scene. So it's all pretty live, you know, in terms of sequential sound design. So it's all time.
How are you calling the show? I mean, are you in a room with infrared cameras watching because there are cues that you have to hit. So what does it look like?
I think
I don't want to reveal
lucky.
magician secrets, but what does it look like backstage during a performance?
So starting 2014, we did have some, you know, night vision cameras, security cameras, you know, that allowed me to kind of keep an eye on, you know, this and that. But it's actually more about hearing certain screen cues, you know, from certain actors, etc. That I know this group is here at this time, this group is here at this time, because we have about 4, sometimes even 5 groups at once in the venue, depending on your show. I think the last year we did. Very rarely we had 5 groups at once. I think, like, you know, starting with the player and ending the play, etc. So, you know, it's basically every 15 minutes you start a new show. It's all about mapping out and planning ahead, you know, exactly, you know, because groups, you know, it's improvised, right? So they might lag behind, they might, you know, go faster than usual, and it might, you know, then creates more overlap. So it's all about kind of, you know, coordinating that, telling actors, and, you know, hey, you guys can take more time with this group, or you can speed it up, etc. So it's just a lot of that stuff. So yeah.
And as far as like the operation of the show, where lighting or audio, the control room itself is kind of boring. There's not a whole lot going on in there because we're reliant on the actors to really, they're the ones triggering all these cues. We have methods spread throughout the house that the actors are able to trigger effects. And it's very discreet. We'll make sure it's hidden. The audience has like no idea that they've hit up if everything's going properly. There's one great story though where this past year, I was going through the show, because, you know, we periodically will go through it if we know it's just a small group to see what's going on. And there was this one scene where there's just, the timing on it was really weird, and the trigger we used is kind of sensitive, and it got a little off. So I hung back and like kind of jumped over there to help fix it. The actress just like, just go. I was like, no, I got it. And one of the reasons it's going wrong is because in the control room, we can't override it. So it was like a battle between the person overriding it, her and myself. But we got it fine going. But it was an interesting moment. And things like that will happen sometimes. And we've definitely evolved the way we run the show, which we can speak to more when we get to it.
I do want to add real quick also, yeah, the actors operate those cues themselves. So not only are they acting, but they're also operating those cues, like light cues, you know, auditory cues, and the score. And on top of that, I do want to, you know, play off what Dasha was saying, but the actors only have 3 days of rehearsal prior to the show. So that's pretty insane. And when I say 3 days, you know, we're blocking them off in 7 and 3 hour, you know, groups as well. So they're props to them for being very talented and professional about it, because, you know, it's very crazy about it.
So does anybody have a question for Dasha before we switch her out? You guys are the shyest audience I've ever seen. There we go. There's some Dasha fans. Stand up and speak loudly.
Hi, I just have a question about the number of actors that are cast for one role. So, Josh's role is in 2012. Did you have more than one?
There were 4, yeah, 4 of us women.
Is that typical? So 4 per character, or?
No. I think for parts that need to be double cast every night, because the role takes so long to do, you can't see every group, you have to see every other group.
Or stunts.
Right. So for those, there are 2 a night that have to perform, so we have backups for that, so they're doubled. But typically there's usually like 2 people that are playing a role. And then for the larger parts, there are 3 or 4.
Yeah, most actors, you know, are on for the night and that's it, except for, you know, roles that, you know, carry through more than one act, or that, you know, last for, or that takes a lot of energy, like you know, the lead roles like Dasha plays. But if not, yeah, usually the actors do 20 to 24 plays a night, which is exhausting. So it's about 5 to 6 hours, I think, you know, consecutively.
Think of all the overtime you're making. Yeah, gotcha. Anybody have another question? One more, yeah.
Kind of a two-parter. So when directing the performances, like having gone there a number of times, I've noticed that they're a bit broad, kind of big performances. Have you found that to kind of help the consistency of the performance throughout the evening? Because it is exhausting, and if you can go a little overboard, it can help consistency, or is it a little more about conveying the story? And then for you, like having such big kind of like large over-the-top performances, is it challenging to find subtlety with the audience in that?
Yeah, let me just I'll jump in real quick. Just about when I hire actors, I stress film acting more than the theater acting. If they can connect in a subtle way with a few people, you know, with as many people as they can in a quiet way, then that's what I prefer. Sometimes it's hard though because again, the mix is tough because we got the music and sound design along with their voices, so a lot of times they're not heard and the story's not being conveyed. So in a perfect world, we'd have it mixed a bit differently, but it's just hard in the format for this type of format. So yeah, but I prefer more subtle.
Dasha, what about you as an actor?
Intimate acting.
I think it is true that, you know, you do have to, there has to be a certain amount of volume to have your voice ride over the score, since it is kind of all blended to feel like you're in a film. So sometimes maybe if someone's right in front of you and they want to also reach the person that's, you know, in the very back of the group, they're, you know, playing to the room, so to speak. But in terms of finding moments and subtleties, I mean, I think eye contact is a big thing, and singling out certain people or groups within the group, and even just making a comment about something that's going on, you know, in an improv moment, really brings everyone into this now, right? And this is happening now, and like that. So yeah, and there are things within the script to do that with as well. You know, last year when the audience they were my children, and you know, I would pick the one that I thought was like the nicest child that I loved, loved the most, but the one that I was like very happy to see in that moment. It was kind of usually the audience member that was giving me the most in that moment, when they were looking at me like there was a girl, Lori, who when I said my children, she just started crying and tears started streaming down, and she brought me into that moment so much more. And I started crying with her, and then we went to each other and we just embraced, and then we looked to the rest of the audience, and they were all like, what, is she in the show? So there's just wonderful things that just happen as little gifts, you know, in the moment, and it's really up to the actor to take those opportunities and make the most of them, I think, in more subtle ways.
We are sadly going to say goodbye to Dasha. Her seat will be replaced, and I suspect we'll be seeing Dasha very soon in another week. Thanks, Dasha. So let's move on. Are we at year 3 now? Is that right? Mask of Mortality. So let's look a little bit from Mask of Mortality. This will be our next person in the hot seat. So let's look at this year, and then we'll talk to her. Okay. Let's bring up Aaron Lyons. Aaron, welcome to the stage. We started to touch on it with Dasha, but I'm going to ask Aaron, the idea that the audience is an active participant in the story, and from group to group, you're going to get a different interaction. We're going to have to wrangle these waters. What works and what doesn't? What does the audience give you that helps you, and what happens when the audience just isn't going to play?
I love when the audience refuses to play. I love when an audience is being a jerk. I love it when an audience member just is trying to be funny and it's like, it's my show now! Like, you have those masks in that year. And a doll falls out of a closet and has a little mask on it. And I'm like, does this look familiar to anybody? This guy like, looks like Spy versus Spy. Because they do. But it's 1936. And a couple people laugh, audience members laugh. But he kept going, Spy versus Spy, Spy versus Spy, Spy versus Spy. And he kept going with it. So I back him against the corner and I said, what do you know about spies? He's like, you've been muttering about spies, what do you know? Tell me what you know. He was like, I don't. And I looked at his friend and I said, you're in charge of him, I don't trust him. Didn't say anything for the rest of the night. So sometimes they don't want to play, or they're the comedian.
Okay. The other thing that this year involved is solving a puzzle. And I don't want to underestimate the intelligence of audiences, but I'm going to underestimate them and say, sometimes there's a puzzle and they just can't even make 2 + 2 = 4. What do you guys do when you're watching a group not be able to negotiate a very easy challenge? Aaron, go ahead. Who's in it?
It's a different year, but it's the example that comes to my mind. There was a clocks all over the room, and there's a clock on the ceiling. And they had to set it to a certain time because all the other clocks were set to the same time. So they finally figured it out. They have to set the clock to the right time, and they're all analog. The guy couldn't set the time. He could not set the time. It was like, what, 10:40 or something like that? It's like, the little hand, what?
7:15.
7:15, thank you. The little hand goes in the 7, somebody, help him. I mean, they figure it out most of the time. Sometimes with a, oh look, a key by the actors. Or there's a hole in that bookcase. Do you see that? What do you see? What do you see? A lot of that. Because it's more fun for me.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like kind of like semi-escape room kind of moments. That's why we have our actors, that are leading everybody through the story, and we need it to continue to move forward, please. But this past year, I experimented with sort of an escape room thing, and I'm not doing it again.
Just no more trains.
No, I love the train.
But that raises a bigger question. Do you learn the hard way by trying things that you think are a little risky that don't work? I mean, how important is it every year to up the ante, not just in terms of story and execution, but try something that you know is a little bit risky, that where all the pieces have to fall together for it to be effective?
Yeah, it gets more and more risky every year. Well, in terms of just the elaborate sets that Kevin is building and Ian are helping to design the sound and lighting and all that, they're pretty elaborate. But I like to, I think in grandiose thoughts all the time, and I know that a lot of this stuff is not going to work, and that somebody might die right there,
including one of us.
But oh, it's going to be a great story at the end of the day. It's going to be super fun. But no, I like to try. It's interesting because you have all these little moments that are fun, but incorporating them into the story that's sort of the challenge. And So it's not, because this is not an escape room, it's not a, it's a play, but it has little moments of discovery. And so we do this play for those people who are completely invested in it and go along with, people like Aaron.
But Aaron, what he's describing is something that's radically different, even from doing theater at a 99-seat waiver house in, Corona. And it's unlike, not to pick on Corona, but just trying to make it sound as bum-tucky as possible, but as opposed to TV and film, what does that mean as an actor when that every minute is going to be different, that what the audience is giving you, what the situation is giving you is going to be different than the minute that preceded, the minute that's going to follow?
I've done theater my whole life. I'm a very well-trained actor and theater artist. Delusion is the best training I've ever received as an actor, bar none. I've toured the world during Shakespeare and all this other la 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 la. This is the best training because every show you have 10 new actors in your show. Sometimes they don't know their lines. And it always makes it real, it always makes it fresh, I have to pay attention because the thing when you're doing a show for 2 months, everyone knows their lines, everyone knows their blocking, it's just like, yes, I love you. And it gets by rote. Go to the 7th year of a Broadway run of a show with the same actors, and sometimes it's going to be, they're marking through the paces. You cannot mark through the paces in this show. You have to be super hyper aware, and the sound and the lights and the set and the costumes and the makeup and the creature effects just does all this work for us, so that all we have to do is pay attention to you for this moment. And our awareness of, oh, that guy just put a fake candle in his pocket. That guy's pissing in the corner. True story solved.
Who has an audience question for Aaron? There we go, right up front.
This is kind of a boring question, so I apologize. But
Never said that. Never said a question's boring.
you keep saying that this is theater, and I'm just curious, do you run into any union things?
That's a great question. The question, if you didn't hear it, you say this is theater, what do the local theater guilds have to say about performance and union rules?
Nothing.
Don't ask, don't tell?
Yeah, don't ask. It's, there's no category.
This is not an equity show.
Yeah, we're not equity houses.
No, it's not equity. No.
They don't look at us.
It's not boring. No,
Just-
it's a unique production that doesn't really fall in any kind of, even the city itself doesn't know how to permit us sometimes, so.
You can see union actors.
I'm sure. Are you SAG-AFTRA?
Yeah,
You're-
yes. I mean, because it's not a traditional theater with the seating arrangements and all this other stuff, and we do get paid. That's the thing where the unions start coming in. It's like, oh, well, they're not, with the whole 99-seat theater situation in Los Angeles, if you're familiar with that, is because the actors are not getting paid. This is different. And it's not a traditional venue, it's, I don't know what our zoning code is. Special
Again, that falls under the better to ask forgiveness than permission rule that you produced by.
Exactly.
Right.
Last question to you before we get rid of you, and I'd love to keep you up here, but we can't, is with that interaction with the audience, you get people go, I know you're playing a 1936 doctor, but I recognize you from last season's Law and Order, where you're playing the drug runner. Do people try to break character with you?
Yes. Again, my favorite thing. They try to, mess with me. They try to, or I look up and it's the entire cast from Firefly. And these people, or people, or friends of mine who come and they try to mess with you, but you mess with them right back.
Aaron, you're going to be on every panel I do going forward, even if it's not about delusion. Let's go to the next year. Aaron, thank you so much. I think we're at year 4, Lies Within. Moving through it fast.
I know that wasn't your chorus, I'll sing it.
really cool to sort of toy with the idea that an author is, there's somebody else sort of pulling the strings for an author's work. And not to give anything away, but she's the story of a woman who writes for a living, but also is serving a greater purpose. And her story's coming to life. It's a very cool concept for me as well too. And sort of the creatures that are coming to life are protecting her, and they love her, and they want her to finish this book series. Story is about what's important. It's what draws you in. It's what connects you to the experience. It's just more psychological. It gets in your mind, and you leave thinking about it. And people weeks later still emailing us about certain experiences, certain moments. It's the lingering effect that the story does.
Okay. Jillian, Claire, come on up. The price is right.
Can I play Plinko?
Can you do what? Jillian, I want to ask a little bit about performing these shows. We haven't talked about this at all, and that is the stunts. That is the physical work that's required of a lot of performers in these shows. You're working with a guy who's done a lot of the work. As an actor, is that part of the appeal that you get to do things that maybe you don't get to do? Oh, you're smiling. This must be true.
John has me hooked. Like, I can't get enough of stunts. He hooked me on them. I had never done any wire work before this show, and once I got it, he was like, so I'm going to throw you back, really far back, and you're going to hit a mat. And I was like, okay. And then the first stunt rehearsal, he's like, you ready? He's like, I think so. I don't know. And then you just go, and it's like the biggest rush. It's so cool. And the best thing too when you're doing it, because you're in the harness for a long time, and you're doing 10 shows a night, so it gets a little rough, and you want to take it off really bad. But the best part is watching the audience when you get thrown back so far, because they always freak out. And my favorite thing to do in 2014 was, because the audience was so close to me, I'd grab somebody's hand, and right when I went, they would like jerk with me, and they would just freak out.
But I mean, that's kind of gets at a bigger idea that you're taking some of the conventions that audiences know from movies and television and showing them in real time. So are you always cognizant of what the latest like horror effects are and how you can use those in a live setting?
No, not so much. It's more just story dictates, big stunts that's going on. Some years are stunt heavy, others are not so much. Lives Within was not very stunt heavy. Last year was pretty much lots of stuff going on. But yeah, it's hard because you have people walking around and you have wires that are hiding it, so we have to sort of lighting is a big part of that. So and just blocking the audience. So the actors have a lot to think about during that time. I mean, Jillian had to, and other actors have to actually clip themselves in. They have to get themselves clipped in off stage. There is no off stage, so they have to find their ways to sneak over while somebody's doing something, and then there's a stunt rigger, putting the shackle through the hole in the wall and clipping it in without anybody noticing, hopefully. And then so it's tough. It's tough. I don't want to go too behind the scenes and break the magic of it, but it's a trip.
When people go see magic, I think it's generally true about 90% of the audience wants to give themselves over to the story and not worry about how something's done. And there's the 10% that is always going to be try to figure it out. Jillian, as an actor, what is it like to be with those 90%, the people who are going to give themselves over the show? I mean, Aaron's talking a little about the people who are going to not. But in terms of the people who want to buy in, who want to be present, how does that change performance for you, and how important is that for any given evening's show?
I mean, it's always so awesome because you can tell. When a group walks in, both years I've been in Delusion, I've been the first floor guide. So we can kind of tell right off the bat how this group is going to be. But what's really fun is watching the groups who do have that passion for it, and you get to play with it. So some groups like to have more fun with it, laugh with us, and create jokes, like inner jokes between just us. And then some groups just really love the horror effect, so you should go scarier. or you should go bigger, or you should get more like towards their neck, or do stuff that's weird. But it's, I don't know. I mean, like the first year I came out of a closet with a knife in Lies Within. So it was really fun with that because when I came out of the closet with this knife and black teeth and my hair all crazy and dirt all over my face, people were automatically in it. Like, there was no going away from the fact that there was this crazy creature standing in front of you.
You're in a tiny room.
In a tiny little room with a little girl with a knife. But it's really fun. Like, you know the moment they come in if they're going to be completely committed to it. You do. It's really interesting. Because you'll have other people, like Aaron was saying, that'll come and be like, bros.
Yep.
That's my favorite, is when a bunch of bros come in, and I'm just like this little girl, like, I'll beat you up.
And you will.
And I will. But the people who come in, we all really appreciate that, because we have so much more fun with the people who give themselves to the experience.
So when you and your team are having a post-mortem, let's just say you've done a show that night, you're out for drinks later that evening, I know you're going to be thinking about like things that worked or things that didn't work in terms of cues or things like that. But in terms of when the show is connecting, how do you know, what do you look for? What do audiences do or say as they're coming out of the show that you guys know that that evening has gone as well as it can?
Yeah, it's fun. That's the best part, is standing outside and watching people's reactions when they come out. I always say that when people get together afterwards and they sit there in a circle, like we normally do, and tell stories to each other, that's a big success. So it's those people that connect strongly to the story and to the characters that get everything that I'm trying to put out there. To spend a lot of time in the script and the story, and for those who get it, come out and talk about the different characters. What did you do? Because people get separated in the show, so they want to know. But a success is basically, you can just tell, you can see the smile on their face, and you can see the people that want to share stories, and that's huge. And that, we do lots of plays, so some it's hit or miss. To be honest, I want every one of them to be hit. That's probably the thing that's the hardest for me to live with, is that not every show is going to be perfect, and there are 1,000 moving parts to Delusion. It's unreal, and that needs to change. We need to
Well, that's in your script, John.
I know. I'm really looking at you.
We need to make these simpler, you say, as you hand over your 200-page script. Does anybody have a question for Jillian before we swap out Jillian's seat? In the way back, go ahead.
Oh, so you mentioned that initial room. I remember our group went through, we couldn't find that key. Was that like a normal experience for groups, or?
Yeah, a lot of people can't find keys. I feel like that's a running theme with Delusion, is the missing key. It's just, there's always a key that's gone awry. But yeah, I feel like that first room too in that year, it was very hard for me to explain where the key is, considering I'm in a closet and you can barely hear me. But you got it, right? You got me out.
We're going to move on to the next year. Jillian, thank you so much for coming. Okay, let's go to year 5. Or is that what we're up to? Is Crimson Queen. Let's just look at some video and we're going to talk to some more people.
Yeah, so by the way, just real quick, we're going to be speaking to these two wonderful people. Jim, there are no pictures of you anywhere, except for that one. So we'll be talking to these two fine people. So.
Some music for Delusion. Sing this scene. Oh. There's Vic. It's coming. Here comes the moment. Then what happens? Oh shit!
We're here at the 5th iteration of Delusion, called His Crimson Queen. We're going to be diving getting into the mansion, sneaking through the dark, checking out exactly how this whole thing works. So let's go step inside, check it out. This is where we have cameras in almost every room. We're seeing pretty much all the action. We're watching the audience at all times, making sure people are doing as they're told. The audience is about to come in and getting geared up with the ratchet systems and the combat systems and kind of what they actually do. And we try to paint the walls, we try to hide the wires as best as we can, even in a live setting. We have a zip line coming across here, and we'll be able to see all the action from here. Zip line's coming. The epic foyer scene. This is number 15 tonight. We do it 20 times a night. We need very special actors and stunt people to do this. It's a shame because it gets so easy and people don't know the detail. Like these guys get into the creature effects. If you get into that, it's like the Starlight Pit. There's like 100 Starlight Pits here.
Special favorite of John Breaker's imagination right here.
I like to make out of this thing when no one's looking.
I'm not here. I'm not here.
I look at it as like as a film. As if people are looking through a camera. They're looking at this as if it's a film. So people get to hide behind this wall here and look through these holes. They're hiding and I'm watching the scene happening here. So it's like being a kid again. Probably my favorite activity in all of Delusion, like actually manipulating light to burn vampires, where you have to actually do it. And people get so into this moment, it's mind-blowing. So it's just beautiful. You can angle this light wherever you want, find your vampire, place the light, and death. We have some unbelievable stuff in store with Skybound and Delusion, that amazing new partnership. We're going to be bringing Delusion Lies Within, the 2014 play, into a VR series. Keep an eye out for it. Enter delusion.com, skybound.com. We'll bring it together and we'll bring it to you. Thanks so much.
Let's bring costume and makeup designer Kat Elrod and creature effects designer Jim Feinstein. So, I remember a couple things from this show. One is it started off with kind of what I'll describe as a naughty scene between two women, which I thought was cool. Are we going to see more of that going forward? Maybe?
Do you want to?
Yes, I do. And second, at the end of the show, I was locked in a coffin, and like the first 15 seconds was kind of cool, and then the next 15 seconds was the longest 15 seconds of my life. And I was like, do you actually, I think we've done a story on your show, on my radio show. It's like, this is the payback, because clearly I didn't do a nice enough story, and they're going to find my skeletal remains a year from now. But it was very effective. I want to talk about your collaboration with these two people at the end. What were you looking for, and how did you bring them onto the team?
So these are two people that deserve mad props, they have mad skills. They've been with me since the beginning, and the heroes of Delusion. Kat's been with me since the very beginning, 2011. Jim, I think we were in 2012?
2011 I donated blood.
That's right. There we go.
2012 was the first creature suit.
Yeah, so Jim, and real quick, just Jim and I, we met. I worked on a movie, a Disney movie called Haunted Mansion, this Eddie Murphy thing, and so we worked together on that. This is a spectacular film.
Yeah. Unlike his other movies.
But the best part really was the zombies and all that, and so Jim was responsible for all that. Yeah. And Kat, from Victor, I think Victor introduced me to Kat.
Yeah, I did a short horror comedy film that Kat worked on when I was in college. So then I worked for John, and I was like, she's fantastic.
So
I want to give you guys time to.
I want to hear a little bit about the way you approach work and what the references are, because these are living, breathing characters, and they have to perform in makeup, they have to perform in costumes. So I guess working backward from what the actors need to perform and what you're looking for aesthetically.
Well, I start with the script. I get the script. I get what
he has up the script a couple of months beforehand. So I'm looking at all the stage directions to see, you know, what the characters look like, what they're doing, their action. The strange thing about Delusion is that I'm essentially designing the costumes before I see the show, before I meet the actors, you know what I mean? So I'm always like, is anybody really tall? Is anybody really fat? Just tell me that, because everybody else can be corseted in, or, you know, in a pajama, or something like that, you know? But I go off, you know, what the script says, we have a nice chat, he sends me some reference, I send him some reference, and then I start shopping. And then we sort of whittle it down, like, do you like this, do you like this, do you like this, does it suit the character? And, I mean, it's, the very, very first year, I think everybody was in pajamas, because it was a mental asylum, you know, so I just brought a really good variety of robes and old-fashioned two-piece pajama sets and things like that, and then the doctor, you know, whatever I imagine on top of whatever he's imagined, and then, you know, and then we just try to make it work, and then we cut holes in it.
Jim, what about you?
What was the question again?
No, where do you start? And you know, what is the, you get reference from John, do you give him options? What do you guys, what are the initial conversations about, and what drives those conversations?
2012, there was the cousin in the basement, and John wanted something Hulk-like. Not green, but just distorted and deformed and muscular. So I basically designed it a month or two in advance, of course. I used crutches as arm extensions so we could run like an A. And we made this Hulk thing, but at the very last minute, we didn't have a head. And we decided to go with a goat skull. And it was magic. It was no longer the cousin, it was a demon, you know.
And tell us a little bit about working with the actors. If you only have a couple of days of rehearsal, once you get actors in costume and makeup, how does that change performance? And how do you know that an actor is getting what it is that you have designed for him or her?
We've been very lucky with that. Again, the later years, 2014, it was a piece of cake doing the casting. John cast some great people. It really was not an issue for me at all. And I got to work closely with them because, again, there's never time for me to do it. I'm the technical advisor on Face Off, and I usually shoot right up until the first week of September. So I have a week or two to throw together a creature suit for John, which is fine, that's all the budget we have anyway. So I usually spend a week building it in my house, and then the second week I finish building it and fine-tuning it during dress rehearsal week. So I work closely with the actors for that week as well.
Okay, what about you in terms of that very quick period that you have to get actors ready for show?
Well, I usually have about a month to prep, so I do all my shopping, all my ordering, and then I try to squeeze fittings into those 3 days that they're doing their rehearsals. And then we sort of figure it out when the show's running, you know? I know one year I put you guys in corsets, and I'm like, you're gonna wear these in corsets, and you're gonna wear them, because I want you to wear them and I like them in corsets. But then they're like, we're wearing, not only are you guys wearing a harness, but then you're strapped into it and you're wearing a corset. So like, how can we figure this out? And I was like, let's take the boning out as long as, you know, and then that solved that problem, and, you know, so little things. Like I'm willing to change anything I need to change, you know what I mean? And I get it. And it's hard sometimes, you know, because when you're designing, I need 7 duplicate 1930s period blouses that I've now paid, you know, whatever for, and I gotta cut holes in them, and I'm like, I want to use them, you know. But we make adjustments and we do what we need to do, and I never, actually, I've learned my lesson the very, very first and second year. I never distress anything anymore, really, because after a week, it's tattered, and I was like, you know, and I'll have to repurchase everything over again. But I don't know, there's a good balance, you know.
And this is something I asked the actors, and I asked you, that when you're working in film and television, you're not going to see the audience reaction to what you've designed until way down the line. What does it mean as designers to actually see real-time reaction to what it is you've created?
I think that's a bigger Jim question, because I love corsets, you guys all love corsets, but I don't think anybody really reacts to
Yeah,
them.
it's quite amazing. 2012, the audience is in a cage. The demon breaks out of a wall and runs right at the cage. That's where they all lost their water. It was really a horrifying moment.
Define lost their water. I don't know what that means. Does that mean somebody's coming in with a mop after the audience comes through?
We'll skip to 2014. Okay. 2014, you saw a couple of clips of a creature called Ember, who was... Super welcome. The audience walks into a room and there's a pile of burning embers in the fireplace. They have to find a book to move into the next room, and the embers in the fireplace stand up and charge them and chase them. I think that's my favorite thing that John has created.
Spoiler alert.
Pardon?
Yeah, it was spoiled. Does everybody have a question for Jim or Kat? Some makeup people, there we go. Repeat question.
Can you talk a little bit how that creature was created?
Of Ember?
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, sure. Don't listen to him, listen to me. Yes, you can.
Actually, that was a fairly easy suit. It was easier than foam fabricating, which I did for the first Demon. It was clear, vacuum pieces. I went out to my yard, got a bunch of twigs and firewood, vacuum formed it out of clear plastic, got a skeleton, vacuum formed all the bones, and lit it with those little ball lights from Michaels.
Easy.
We went to version 10 with Lies Within VR series we'll talk about.
So we're going to do that next. Any last question for Jim or Kat before we get to the future and the next generation of Delusion? So no.
Pictures too. I'm going to go through.
Oh wait, you have some pictures? We'll show
just
some
some
pictures.
of Kat and Jim's work. We'll kind of get through some of it, and you guys can jump in anytime you want. So, from last year, there's the Queen, the actresses, the brides, and the basements. There's Sarah Jo, there's Amelia last year. There's Aaron Lyons. Judy Arno. He played Little Jeremy in 2014 as well. From Lies Within, VR. Lies Within VR, actress named Britt Adams. And the VR series. Some of
She was awesome.
yeah. So Jim, you want to talk about some of these?
Oh, there's one of our puppet people. That is Annalisa, the rag doll, with these giant button eyes. And I found some really cool textured fabric to basically glue on her face and coat it with latex. She was quite successful. Another one of the puppet people, latex wig, cheap prosthetics, and a nice paint job. Another one, Sky. Kevin, a guy named Kevin Ward did this makeup as well. Cracked porcelain doll look. Very brightly lit one. Another, once again,
Delusion bets.
no prosthetics, just a guy in a paint job.
Jim and Kat, thank you so much. So our last piece of video is going to set up our last conversation with Rachel Skidmore from Skybound Entertainment. So let's look at this last piece and we'll talk with Rachel and we'll get you guys back on the floor.
Working with VR is obviously a little different. You know, it's just film, but it's more complex filmmaking in that you have some very specific beats you have to hit while also staying within the scene for an extended period of time. So it's a fun challenge, and I think it's a lot of fun. So it's more complex in that way, and it's not as loosey-goosey.
The same challenge for theater. I mean, a lot of people grow up doing theater, and I'm no different, and so it's fun to kind of like go back to that because you can't cut. It's a one elongated scene, and so it's kind of the excitement of like, oh wow, you can actually film theater, but do it in like a professional, you know, eye-popping way.
We have really long takes, and we don't do much coverage or close-ups. So we rehearse more for VR than we would for an actual film, in my experience.
Well, I think one of the major differences is there's no audience in the room with us. In the stage show, we're used to being physically close to the people who are viewing it. In the VR, the camera becomes sort of this omnipresent thing. But the immersive environment is still exactly the same. on our first day of shooting, when I was waiting to like make my first entrance into the world, all I kept thinking was, it's delusion. It's the universe. Just tell the story like you would in the show, because it's the same sort of feeling, the same sort of intimacy as the stage show, for sure.
I love the process of it. I wish everything was VR, because I think as an actor, you really get into that habit of just staring at a tennis ball, saying your lines, and moving on, rather than really being in the world and actually, like, I'm a part of this.
The detail behind this project, as far as the art direction, our art director, Kevin, is insanely gifted. He and his team put together an atmosphere that really draws you in and makes you feel as though you're in this 1940s haunted mansion, essentially. Everything from the books that they have to the furniture to the curtain design.
One of the things that excited me about this project was just all the opportunity for movement. To not embody the camera as a person and not have them in any way tied to the narrative, but you're kind of lingering in between the space of what I would like to say, a ghost in this manner, since there's a lot of that kind of going on. But it's a combination of that and Fly on the Wall, where it's purely observational, but we are giving you moments with certain characters, sliding over and giving you the moments with the other characters, rather than kind of staying stationary and just kind of watching things from a distance in the room. So this, I'm hoping, is a lot more engaging. It brings, the characters to the action rather than trying to cut.
Even just looking, we've got to look at a little bit of the test footage. And then you just have a big dumb grin on your face the entire time. It's a lot of fun.
John Braver is the man. The VR world, it's the same, really allowing the actor to sort of envelop the story, and he's created this whole world, these characters, this story, but he really just allows an actor to go in and live in it while just guiding in the most loving and supportive and brilliant way possible.
Everything just takes you to another place. They honestly transformed this location and made it into this grandiose place of fear. No, wait!
So I'm going to bring up Rachel Skidmore, she's Director of Media Development, and Live for Them VR. She is Executive Producer. Rachel, welcome. So I'll start with you, Rachel, about why this seems to be a natural and organic outgrowth of everything that Delusion has done up to now.
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, I've worked in VR for a few years now, and I think one of the challenges in VR storytelling is to educate the creators and the directors on how to bring stories into a 360 space, and John already knew how to do that and have this beautiful, dark side. Just really had a knack for telling stories in real environments. And allowing the audience to look around and explore themselves. And that's something that many creators in VR, they can't let go of that. They're like, but I want the audience to go look that way now, and I want them to look this way. And John really knew what to do with the space.
So how do you write a story for VR that's different from the way you would write a story for a physical environment?
Well, I'll say that the big plus side of VR is, going back to a question I think you guys were talking about earlier, was the mix. That now, finally, you can hear everything I want you to hear, and hear all the dialogue I want you to hear. So that's probably one of the biggest pluses for me. But it's very much, it's like a stationary audience member. You are in this series, you are a ghost following through the story with certain choice moments, which are kind of cool because there'll be moments where the action freezes and you'll be able to kind of look and decide which path you get to go. So it is keeping true to the Delusion tone and theme, and everything about Delusion, but just a lot more. This is a lot more the way that I want you to see it intimate, where people are touching it, you can smell it and all that kind of stuff. But this one, you'll be able to maybe engage a story a little bit more rather than having lots of people around you.
Do you think there's a way people can experience this in a communal setting where people doing it at the same time? They can do it in their homes, do it. What do you imagine its venues the venues could be.
Yeah, I think that for the version that we have, that we've created, which is sort of half of the story of Lies Within, for those of you who saw Lies Within, that's what we've adapted, and so you're going to see new characters. But right now it is that solo experience, probably in-home, you know, it'll be enabled for mobile. You know, with certain additions, we might be able to do something like, you know, an IMAX experience, but it's not for groups yet. I see that in the future, being capable of creating that same experience that you get going to the plays with a group. I'd love to do that in the future.
So is there a possibility, John, with the next, and by the way, when is the next Delusion going to be?
The next live show?
Yes.
I'm sorry, not this year. But it's the whole bane of my existence thing with the venue, but this is the first time I ever actually found a venue for next year. So I usually find a venue in May, write the story in June and July. I already have a venue for next year, so I'm starting to write the show now. It's a totally new show. It's wicked epic. I will say that. It's pretty insane. And it could run, it's not a residential property, so it could run as long as you guys buy tickets.
Wow. So this would be not a one-off then. This would be a venue there you could stay at, where you could be other entertainment going around? I mean, what's your vision?
Oh, we'll have the show running, and the idea is that we would have this be sort of a hub of interactive theater and immersive experiences, that they can use some of our set pieces to do short runs. We can have screenings, talks, we can, you know, have our VR experience there as well too. So it's going to turn into a sort of a very interesting space in LA where interactive theater and drive.
So Rachel, is there an iteration where what you're creating now can live in a group setting as well, so that people could come to this new space, do whatever the physical show is, and then step out and do something that's VR related, that's either a continuation of that story or a standalone story?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that that's the beauty of the Delusion universe, is that we could dig into these episodes that we've created for VR and add to them, whether that's, I love what they did with the Bjork experience, where each step of the way you sort of went from, you know, being in a room, then just adding to the experience in a physical environment, and then you're solo kind of like in the headset. I think we could build on that for sure in a space. Tell a little bit more story with live actors and have a little bit more of like a tactile experience too.
We've spent a lot of time talking about why scary stories are so much more important and profound and I think moving in a live setting. Do you think the same is true with VR? That there is a genre that fits VR, that this is a genre that fits VR better than others?
I think it definitely is, because there is room for surprise in 360. So, you know, I can be looking one way and have no idea what's behind me, and we can explore that in VR the same, you know, in 360 the same way you can in the house. It absolutely works. You know, we can spook audiences way more.
And it's cool, on top of that, we're working with a sound designer who does video games. He's incredible. So if people are able to listen to it the way that I'd like them to, in 360 sound, it's mind-blowing. I went in and worked with him a little bit, and just the sound of an owl in a tree over here, and it's moving as as the camera's pushing through the forest. It's incredible.
We have to hand this hall over for another presentation, so rather than take questions, I would invite you guys to come up and say hi to this panel and some of the actors, because we do have time for that. I want to thank you guys for showing up, but I really want to thank John, Kevin, Ian, and Victor, all of our guests who came up, Dasha, Aaron, Jillian, Ken, Jim, and Rachel. Thank you guys. I'm Delusion.
John, thank you so much. This is a big, I'm a big fan of this guy. So the fact that he said he's going to do this on his own time and come here, it's a very special treat, and I'm going to dedicate it. Thank you so much.